after 6 months of action, it all comes down to this. The regular season comes to a close this evening here at the Daytona International Speedway. And of course, there's so many things that can still happen. We need to find out the top 15 drivers in the standings who will make their way into the playoffs starting in a couple of weeks' time at Las Vegas. But before that, there's a lot of things to play out. It is the Superior 400, 100 laps here around Daytona. As myself, Cam Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me as we go. Restricted Play Racing, Super Speedway Racing to find your place into the playoffs. This was our opener last season, but it is now the close of the regular season, and what a difficult race it is going to be for some of these guys who need the points to make it into the playoffs. It's been a long season. Round 14, we are at about 6 months already. The season has been going, and there's just a couple more before we work our way to Las Vegas, Dover, Richmond, Michigan and Phoenix for the final, with 5 drivers going for the title on the 8th of May. It's been a roller coaster of a season. We've had drivers winning and then leaving, the likes of Savicki, won a race and then hasn't come back since, and we've had the likes of Jesper Eriksson also having a strong season. Oliver Bohlin getting a second race win last time out as well. And of course, Linus Broström ever strong up there in the top 3. But look at the cut line. We got so many drivers who are just short, the likes of Uven and Lundberg, Pfeffer. They can still get into demo, and Ericsson are just outside of that. But importantly, the likes of Dan Solo, he's P7, but if he has a bad race today, he'll fall outside of the top 30 in the overall points, and therefore will be missing out on his playoff place. But his teammate Jonas Gunnarsson as well, he's P30 at the moment, but he needs to get a win today to secure his place. There's a lot of things going out there on the track. We'll try and keep up with the points because it is a little bit complicated with how some of these drivers can get there. They're just out there doing their qualifying session, and qualifying is so important today. We have 41 cars out on the track, and of course you want to be up towards the front being pushed. It looks like Jonas Skoglund and Kenneth Tier are on that provisional pole, but of course we need to see what the drivers do as they work their way through the final couple of seconds. And Ewan, today it is going to be tough for these drivers, isn't it, to work their way to the front?
It'll be a very exciting race indeed, and you just mentioned it there, 41 drivers on the grid for this. That's more than you get in a NASCAR race these days in the real world. It's a very, very big field indeed, and so much to play for as well. As we just saw in those graphics, 6 drivers with the possibility of moving around, whether they, or 7 even, whether they will be in the playoffs or not based on points. And further 22 drivers, those 7 are some of them, who have the chance to win here tonight and be guaranteed a place in the playoffs no matter what happens. A few more just below the top 30 who have that chance as well, depending if results go their way. It's going to be a very, very exciting night of racing indeed over the course of 100 laps at Daytona.
And this is how they'll line up. Jonas Skoglund, the 83 machine, puts it on the front row with Kenneth Tier alongside him. And then, of course, we have the 2 Dans, Holmer and Solo on that second row. Eric Blixton, the 95, is 5th, with Joel Wallen in the 43. He had a difficult time last time in Darlington, but a lot stronger here today. Gunnarsson in P7. Then we got Helm, Lundberg, Forsland, Fagerberg and Pfeffer inside your top 12. And, of course, the lap times are so close here at this flat-out oval. Then we have Schott, Wallen, Helberg, Otto, Uvenen and Dylan Platt inside your top 18. And of course, the list will ever keep going on with all the drivers here today. Leppert, Gantz, Linus Broström down in 21st. He's got a lot to do from there. Helmbro, Araldson as well. Bratberg in P24. Then we have Fredriksson, Forsell, Jesper Eriksson down in P27. Lundell, Tidemo, Robert Eriksson also in P30. Then we got Holmbaum, Hagman, Holmerin, Nordgren, Wildebar and Dahlstrand. And then there'll be one final page with Haflidsson, Kinnell, Motin, Broström and, as ever, Marcus Stiller starting from the back every race so far this season. As I mentioned, it's the Superior 400, so look out for Team Superior. They are trying to win their own race. I remember there was a race a few rounds ago that they also sponsored, but they didn't go too well there at all. So hopefully they can have a bit better luck this time around. around, it is going to be so hard for some of the drivers. I mean, you and the likes of Ericsson down in P27, you've got, of course, Broström down there as well. They don't need to do anything in terms of the points. They've already secured themselves into the playoffs. But if they want to help teammates as such, they've got to get to the front.
Exactly. We were talking to Linus Broström before about what his sort of opportunities are here tonight, and it's largely for him and also for Jesper Eriksson as well, going to be more about getting the team's championship back on track for the both of them, and that is still a very, very close championship to have a look at. There is also something to race for them though. If you win a stage in these races, then you get a playoff point. If you win the race, you get 5 playoff points. That carries forward into the round of 15 starting in 2 weeks' time, so there is something for those guys to play for. But yeah, the fact they're further down the field, I don't think for anybody actually is going to be too much of a concern. You're just going to want to get through the opening laps here and see where you are by the end. I really don't think it's a problem starting at the back. I mean, or indeed in the midfield. I think that, these drivers will be absolutely fine with that, and those who will work their way to the front will work their way to the front anyway, no matter whether they've qualified at the front or not. It's a bit of an arbitrary exercise really, qualifying around here.
Yes, certainly. As I mentioned, this race here at Daytona was the opener of the previous season. So this was back in August of 2023. And Eric Blixt in the 95 was the winner on that day. Remember, Alcantech were very, very strong. And Dan Holmer was in second place. So wonderful to see them going up there. Skoglund, actually, who's P5 on that day, obviously strung around this track, starting on the pole. So there's definitely, some top names up towards the front. And what a season it has been so far. But this is the close of the regular season. As mentioned, we do have the playoffs still to come, and there's a lot of racing to come over the next 3 months, for us to find out the actual champion of the season. But of course, just 15 drivers will work their way through, 41 on the grid. So we are going to lose well over half of the field today, as the pace truck works his way around turn 4 and we work our way towards the line. It is the Superior 400, the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. It's the end of the regular season. Who can steal a win and get themselves into the playoffs? Just 100 laps are coming ahead of these drivers as we get to the restart zone. Green flag is out and we go racing for one final time here in this regular season. A nice clean start from everyone so far, as you would expect. But as the speed rise and the slipstream comes, let's see what we can do. But actually, Kenneth T on that outside line, he's got a huge gap behind. Wallin's not had a good start.
Yeah, no help at all on the outside line there. So the inside is going to take the early initiative here. You're going to see Kenneth T going backwards, then he'll be collected by the others just in behind. The 43 of Joel Wallin will now be getting to the back of him, but it's too late really. Look at the pushing here from Daniel Holmer to get Jonas Skoglund into the lead. That's what you've got to be watching around here at Daytona. Where's the energy? Where are the cars close? Where are they pushing one another? That's where the runs are going to come from. That's where you're going to see who takes the lead and who's shoved to the back, like you're seeing with Kenneth T at the moment. I thought it was going wrong in the background. We already have a crash down through turn 3.
Yeah, the 321 of Wurdebar, he's gone around as the caution comes out. We didn't even get one full lap of racing, and that is very unfortunate indeed. We've seen a few other drivers drop down. I think Robert Eriksson's gone down as well. Lundell, Dahlstrand, all involved, it seems. And it was a bit of a weird one early on. I thought the drivers would be taking it fairly comfortable, as this is the 94 of Motin, but there's a car a lot slower in the foreground, and maybe just checking up there a little bit, just caught the 94 unawares and pushing the 321 around.
It was a pretty big accident. There's quite a lot of drivers will be damaged with that. Robert Eriksson and Connie Lundell as well, both damaged, because I'd presume so anyway. They're both down pit lane, along with Wurdebar, who's actually back out onto the circuit again at the moment. I'd imagine there will be repairs done for that number 321. None of the contenders at either end of the standings, though, caught up in that one. Today we'll be particularly focusing on that 15th place cut-off line we were talking about earlier on, but also the 30th place cut-off line, because it is possible for Daniel Solo to lose enough positions in the championship to see himself out of the playoffs, even though he's won a race. So we'll keep an eye on that, but none of the contenders in either that 15th place cut-off line or the 30th place cut-off line were caught up in that incident. Certainly not badly enough damage to come in just yet.
Yeah, that would be a big shame, to be honest, for Solo. There's a car come down pit road in the background. Yeah, it'd be a big shame for him if he does miss out, because he's been so strong since Alcantech rejoined halfway through the season, and they came in with just enough races left that they could still get enough points to get inside the top 30 in the championship. But obviously they need to win a race. Blixt and Solo, they've done that. Gunnarsson has missed out so far. He is in P7 this race. Let's see if he can get a victory. Of course, he ran out of fuel on the final corner of the lap, which led Linus Broström to steal the victory on that day back at Iowa, I believe it was. But yeah, tough day there. But Gunnarsson, he needs to come, and Alcantech have had a really strong run so far. So that'd be crazy if Solo misses out, but you never know what is going to happen as the caution flag comes out. It looks like there was quite a few drivers actually coming down pit road. We've got the likes of Broström, Bohlin, the two teammates. We've got Aronson as well, so the Morby Bright Esports trio, they've come down pit road, maybe just trying to do something a little bit different, maybe get some more fuel and try and get to the stage, which is at lap 40 when the fuel tank goes about 35 laps.
Just past the fuel window effectively, so that's why they'll be coming in at this time. Just make that equation a little bit easier for themselves, and maybe by hanging back in the pack, as they might well be minded to do early on, they might just save a bit more fuel that way as well. Expecting one large group to stay together here for most of the opening part of the race, and even if they do get disconnected from a sort of front group if one breaks away, wouldn't matter really, because those at the front pushing on would have to come into pit lane, whereas those hanging around at the back fuel saving would not. So we'll see how they play it, but I think it's very early to have really been put on any fuel that is going to make any difference as far as you're going to make it or not. I think you're still going to require fuel saving. I'm not saying it's impossible that you can't fuel save your way to the stage, but I think you're going to need more than that short top up they've just had at the end of lap 2.
Yeah, it is going to be tough, although the 35 laps was under green. Of course, if you're sitting, A, we've had the caution, and B, if you're sitting if you're 10-15 cars back, you're going to be nowhere near full throttle around here, so there's potential obviously to save some fuel. For out the front for quite a while, that might change how you approach this race. And I've actually just realised we've got a trio of the Alcantech cars on that low line just behind Skoglund as well. They're going to be pushing each other, so they've positioned themselves nicely for this restart.
Yeah, they certainly have. That's why I don't really like the idea that you can choose your line in real life at Daytona, to be honest, because it just makes it very easy. You used to have to coordinate it between yourselves, but not really anymore in the real world, which is a bit of a shame. But there you go. It is all about who's in what line and who's pushing who, as we were talking about on that initial start, and that will remain to be the case again as well as we get this second start underway. I'd be surprised if Skoglund gets out to such a big lead quite so quickly this time round, because Joel Wallin, the second in line on the outside, if you like, was going nowhere for some reason. Don't really know what he was doing at the start, but he certainly wasn't pushing the Kenneth Tier on the outside line. So hopefully everyone's a bit more attentive this time round, and we'll see where that gets them. But I'd be surprised if Skoglund gets out to such a big lead again.
Yeah, indeed. Although it is one of those things where no one's ever going to pull away. There was something will always bring them back. But as you were mentioning, Ewan, on that first start, it's all about where the energy is. How many cars can you get in a line pushing each other? How big are the gaps in between? If you get a big gap like we saw between Tier and Wallin on that first start, then of course the car ahead just can't go anywhere. He's not being pushed around the circuit. You really need some friends and to try and not make enemies in that case, because when you get to that final 5-10 laps and everyone's staying flat out, no one's lifting off, you want to know you can trust the cars around you. Pace truck comes in. We got less than one lap of action before the caution comes out, but we get to the restart zone and the Superior 400 gets underway once more. It's a great start from Skoglund, but the issue with that is he's not being pushed. He moves up to the high line, then Kenneth Tier moves down to the low line. They're all trying to find the gaps and find some people to get drafted.
Yeah, I think this is a good start again from Skoglund. He's got real big jump, and you won't want to be getting quite so far out front towards the end of the race, but for now it's fine, because I don't suspect Daniel Holmer's in any mood to sort of punish him for going out so far out front early on. And there you go, they're going to push on the bottom line. Look at how organised they are down there compared to the high side, where you're right, we saw people coming in from the high side down low, but even so, they're not very organised. Wallin is being pushed by Edwin Forsand at the moment, but that's it. Where's the help going to come from? Oh dear, it's already gone wrong back here again. Thomas Kinnell, one of those going around.
And we stay green flag racing though. We stay under green flag. Cars moving around all over the place. They're trying to find the line. Somehow Thomas Kinnell on the 14, he did spin around, but he has not triggered the caution, which is probably a good thing. We can get some momentum going. We do have some splintering off the back of this lead double pack as everyone is trying to still work themselves out. We had drivers swapping lines all over the place. I said the 3 Alcantec cars all in the line. That lasted less than a kilometre really before everyone is moving up and down. We've got quite a few of the Sim Race Sweden cars trying to work together in the background too. So it's probably about 20 odd cars in this lead bunch as they work their way down to turn 3.
Some of the names caught up, by the way, down there at the back of the pack as we've got a top 27 really jumping away. All of those who came in under that previous caution to top off on fuel. So that includes the likes of Linus Brodstrom, Alexander Audsen, and other big names who are up towards the front. They have come down pit lane and indeed they're now off the back of this group that you're seeing at the moment in your picture. They're somewhere in the background trying to draft in 1s and 2s. Christopher Dahlstrand, who's one of those drivers right around the top 30, is down there as well. That's good news for Daniel Solo, who needs as many of those drivers down there as possible. But Dahlstrand not having a particularly good start to the race. He needs to win tonight if he wants to be in the playoffs. One of those many drivers who can win and get in.
And the issue for the drivers who've dropped off this lead peloton is they're basically never going to catch up really unless they work together in some bumper-to-bumper bump drafting. But that's so difficult to get into, especially if they're not teammates and you can't communicate with that. So those drivers who've dropped off the back here that you've seen coming through turn 4, they're just simply going to be going slower as you have drivers once again trying to jump up and down. Helm's just got a driver squeeze in behind him as well. I think it was Helberg as they got some traffic on pit exit. It shouldn't be too much of an issue with the apron being there, but certainly drivers still trying to find their place. It's a little bit all over the place actually. They're not staying in a pretty straight line so far. They're going about half a car width out of each other, so just still trying to figure out where they want to position their car.
Well, someone trying to go 3 wide up top there as well. Maybe advise against that at this stage in the race, but there you go. We've got underway, and it does seem a little like we're a little bit more organised than what we saw a little bit earlier on. One of the also big names who's right around the top 15, by the way, who's been caught up in that incident in this restart is Marcus Stiller in the 013. I'm not sure whether it's directly involved in this sort of schmozzle that we saw on the opening lap of this new restart. However, he is certainly down towards the back at the moment, and he is currently 15th place in the standings, only 14 points ahead of Tony Uvenant in the standings at the moment, so that is not good news at all for him. We'll see whether he can hang on, but Uvenant's still in this front group and Stiller's down on pit lane.
We've seen still pretty even length of each of these lines. No one really committing to either the high or low line just yet. Sometimes you can see the drivers work their way into just a single file formation, but we are trying to still see this double file line work. And this is good actually, because when sort of a window opens, a driver can move up and down each line to try and move their way up. It's very difficult to obviously just do a straight overtake, so you really just have to sort of move up a line, then move across, and then move up a line again. It's a very difficult way of racing because you're sort of hoping for other people to make some mistakes, but it's working out quite nicely for these drivers at the moment. We do have some bigger gaps forming. No one's really bump drafting just at this moment, but again, we do have lap 40 being the stage, so no rush just yet.
No, far from a rush at this stage. We've got long way to go. Only 10 laps complete at the end of this one, and it's been a difficult start for a lot of drivers. Now down to 23, by the way, at the front group, so that's effectively half of the field chopped off down towards the back. This is what happened to Marcus Stiller, who is down at the back, and indeed, well, there's his teammate Tidemo. That was a big stack up, and then he comes down straight into Stiller, so that's why he's off on the grass, and that's why he's currently down on pit lane. But so surprising that this didn't end up being a caution.
Yeah, that is that's such a shame for those guys. Basically, it was just a little bit of a checkup. and the guys 3-4 cars behind just can't see it, and they just go bumper to bumper into the back of each other. And it's very difficult because you're just expecting people to be flat out or just a bit of a small lift. You're not expecting anyone to really be slowing down as such. So when you're in this big pack, it's very, very difficult to judge that. And even if you have a spotter, these things happen so quickly before that communication can get to them. So big shame for those guys, especially the likes of Stiller. He starts from the back on purpose to try and have a safer start, but doesn't always go that way. So it was the 5 going to the 38. Then we had Motin really giving the big push in the background, and then unfortunately just some further cars being collected as collateral damage.
It's a real shame, and it's exactly what you see early on at Daytona and late on, I suppose. It's exactly what happens. Again, so surprising that there was no caution for it, but either way, we continue on racing, and as you said at the time, I think it's probably a good thing to get a bit of an early green flag run under our belts here and get on with the race a little bit. It will just help settle the nerves a little bit, will help settle things a bit more, and that's probably a good thing for everybody. There's Evan Forsen, the IndyCar champion from earlier in 2024, pushing Joel Wallin on the outside line here. As the inside has just been taking charge in these last few moments. They're looking to come back again, although Forsen's got to be very careful with these pushes on Joel Wallin. Can't push in towards turn 3 or indeed turn 1, as we saw to bring out that first caution. What happened to Urdebar if you do push a little bit too close to the corners?
Yeah, the fortunate thing is the back of these Xfinity cars is completely flat, so it does make it just a little bit easier. As always, Wallin gets to the front, he gets the push to the front, drops down to the low line to get ahead of Skoglund, and that is how you do it. You see the faster line, and then you move down or up accordingly, as Skoglund half thinks about moving out the back. But one thing you actually see in sim racing a lot compared to in real life is you see how the cars, they sort of wiggle around a bit side to side. In real life, they can just sit exactly on the back of you in a dead straight line, but you see how everyone's going wiggling left, right, left, right, left, right. I don't know if it's because of the internet or anything, but it's always quite fun to see. It's so difficult to follow exactly in the tyre tracks of the car ahead of you.
These cars are quite difficult to keep going in a straight line, to be honest with you, for 100 laps in direct sort of directly behind whoever's in front of it. I think it is pretty difficult, and it does create this sort of weird moving around a little bit, but there you go. These are the things that you've got to deal with, and these are the things that these drivers will have had plenty of practice at as well. I imagine they will have done plenty of running in a group, if not as big as this one, then certainly they will have done a bit of running with some of their teammates and learning how to push a little bit. You can see Skoglund doing that very well at the moment with Joel Wallin, who I was surprised to see actually jump down in front of Skoglund. I know it is the way to retain the lead, and he is now going to lead laps, is Wallin, but it's not a great way to make friends, and so Evan Forsen won't be best pleased with that, but never mind, Wallin wants to lead for a little while.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but it is always nice to have time up towards the front. Definitely get some confidence and get the laps going, which is what we've had. Of course, we had the caution the end of lap 1. We had a bit of an incident on the initial restart, but then we've remained green flag racing since. And then, of course, you can get some laps under your belt, get comfortable with your surroundings, and hopefully get a bit further into the race. Interesting that all the Sim Race Sweden cars are on the back of this outside line. They're just sat there comfortably at this moment, not doing too much. Got the AKA Hero cars just off the back of them as well. So we always see the teammates finding themselves out on the track, but it is working very nicely. Although this bottom line has got a bit of a run. They've got about 4 or 5 car lengths ahead at this moment in time. The top line need to bunch up and try and work their way down the back straight, maybe a bit of side draft too.
We'll see if they can, as lap 16 is currently being completed. Almost halfway through this opening stint of the race in terms of fuel. So we were chatting just before about how you want to split this race up. You want to be staying out the pit lane as much as you can, really, and not making green flag stops, but it might not really be an option for you. You might have to just come in at some stage. If you want to split this race into 3s, then you want to do another 16 laps, effectively get to lap 33, 34 kind of region, and then come into pit lane and all of the perils that come with that. Just up in front of these guys right now, by the way, is Marcus Stiller, who is out the pit lane again. after 7 minutes 55. He is 10 laps down, about to be 11, but you can see all the movement here. It's always a palaver lapping somebody here at Daytona, and everybody's moving around just to try and make sure they're in the right position when they do pass this lap car.
Well, it was actually because of the 200. So the 200 of Pfeffer went into the wall, coming through turns 1 and 2. That's where the gap the gap was formed. More cars in the background. Oh, spin in the background. That is not great. I think that's Paples, the 30. Yeah, Gantz has gone around, and the caution is going to come out for the second time. Yeah, the cars were just getting a little bit unsettled on that previous lap. Oh, we've got one of the Morby cars here with the hood open as well. I think that's Hawkins shot on the 101 machine. He was involved in that. He's going to try and have to find his way back down pit road. But yeah, that all started from Pfeffer through turns 1 and 2. He went up into the wall, slowed down. Gunnarsson and co had to come past him, and then that just made everyone a bit unsettled. We had the lapped car as well, not helping the situation. By the time we got to lap 3 and 4, trouble happened.
Yeah, I mean, it always happens when there's someone up in front. It's just that little spark that's needed to kick things off, and not in a good way, unfortunately, there for everybody in behind. And so that's the end of a 12-lap green flag run, which is maybe signalling the start of what could be quite a stop-and-start race here at Daytona today. Already 2 cautions flying in the first 20 laps, which is not a great sign to the start of this race. I mean, at Talladega, when we were at the last Super Speedway in September, it was a lot more green flag runs. This is what happened. As you say, Pfeffer's up in the 200, right in the outside, and it was a 3-wide moment going on for quite some time. More cars in the wall just up in front. Tommy Alto was the one eventually who spun around straight to Hackenschott, who hits the wall hard. Alto hits the wall as well, and he will be in the pit lane as a result. He's another one of those drivers just inside the top 30 at the start of tonight's race.
I'd love to see that one again, because that was weird. So the 200 goes wide, then you get the 2 Simrace Sweden cars pushing, but then somehow Auto goes out into the wall. Very weird one at that point in the track to go so high, but there must have been some contact on his rear left, just pushing him wide. And unfortunately, the likes of Hawkins shot there just involved in that one. Everyone down pit road, as you would imagine. And of course there are 4 sets of tyres, and we need at least 2 pit stops, so therefore 3 sets of tyres, and you should have 1 more for a bit of a late caution. With it being 80 odd laps to go, it is actually just a bit on the limit of the fuel. So if it goes green after this caution all the way to the end, it may be just a little bit of a fuel saving game, but I'm sure we'll see another caution before the checkered flag.
Yes, I would have thought so. So we will see whether or how many, I should say, pit stops they'll have to make throughout the remainder of the day to get to that point. But yeah, I'd imagine we will be seeing another caution before the end. Still plenty of drivers on pit lane because of some very long stops indeed. The lead lap count is still at 33, by the way, from the opening crashes. Sebastian Tidmo, Marcus Stiller and Thomas Kinnell are the only drivers to have got back onto the circuit again after varying pit stop dramas. But there's some very long stops happening, and already a third of the field have been involved in some sort of problem here, in not even a fifth of the race.
Yes, in just 19 laps, but we have had basically 3 incidents, 2 cautions, but 3 incidents. The second one didn't cause a yellow. So yeah, already we are at that point of the race where there's a few drivers getting those long repairs. And fortunately, with it being such a long lap and under the pace car, there's actually a lot of time before the pace truck comes around again to put a lap on you, so you can take a lot of repair times and try and get your car fixed. Of course, no fast repair or anything like that, so you do need to basically just sit there and wait for it to get fixed. And what that means as well is there's just really about 10 drivers on the field who haven't been down pit road. Yeah,
and that is pretty remarkable, really. Surprising, given the situation we were in at the time. I would have thought everybody would have been in that time round, because that caution there would have meant for sure you can make it to the end of the stage without pitting under green. But that's the risk that some of these guys are running, and you'll notice that some of them are pretty important names the top 15. Kenneth Tier is currently in 14th place in the playoff standings. He's stayed out there at the moment. So have some of the others like Forsand, who's up there at the moment. He's not quite confirmed yet. So noticing a bit of a trend there with some of those names. And Patrick Pfeffer as well is now in the top 10, by the way. Noticing a bit of a trend there of those who really need the points staying out there during that caution.
And I guess it makes sense because it's also on the limit of the fuel, as I was mentioning. So if we do stay green, we get to the stage, they'll then pit probably the lap after the stage, lap 41, and then they're looking in a good place for later on in the race as well, pitting a bit later. So it might work out well, but as ever, it's always a gamble of what the flags are going to do. Is it going to stay green, or is it going to go back under caution? And you never know. I mean, we saw in the previous round as well, the likes of Bohlin got the new tyres on the end, but it stayed green and he was able to carve his way through. If it was stop start on the cautions, then maybe that wouldn't have happened, and it's definitely been a case before. A lot of the big names that we've been seeing so far this race still up towards the front. Of course, Bohlin, who was up the front from the beginning on that front row. Homer, who's been up the front all day with his teammate Forsand in behind. And of course, Kenneth Tier as well, starting up there at the front. As the pace truck comes in, and for the third time of asking, we are going to go back to green flag racing here on lap 21. It is the Superior 400, and it is the final race of the regular season, trying to work out who's going to work their way into the playoffs. And it's been a messy start so far here at Daytona, but that was a clean run from the 43s. He's got us back underway, but there's a big gaps in behind, so no big pushes coming just yet. The 49 is just absolutely locked in on the 79 as they work their way through turn 2 though.
Yeah, this is the inside line prevailing again, I think, based on what we're seeing at the moment, although they're making a good fist of it on the outside. Dan Homer getting a great push down the back straight here, and maybe it is going to work for him. Yes, he's going to pull down low, is Homer, and he's going to take the lead of this race as well after Joel Bohlin leading the last 8 laps in a row. Looks like Homer is going to be a new race leader. 3 wide off of turn 4 there as well, by the way, as they're trying to squeeze themselves through. That's Alexander Aronson looking in the middle with nowhere really to go now.
Oh, and he's a bit stuck because he's got his teammate on the high line as well, so he's got to be careful pushing in, but he has worked that one out. We've still got a driver in the middle there trying to work his way through. I think it's Fredriksson in the 112 machine, the Kans in the 84, then jumps up to the top. They're going all over the place, trying to find some space. It was getting a little bit congested there. Too many drivers in the same part of the track, and once again, Homer, a big move up to the top to get a push from Ericsson.
Overtake now in the 49. If Tier can lead a lap, that's an extra 2 points, which would be huge for his aspirations of finishing in the top 15 here. So he'll be looking for the help here from Bohlin. Homer's got help from his teammate Jesper Eriksson. Out of turn 4 they go on the run up towards the line. Who's going to lead the lap? It looks like it's going to be Homer in the 79, just about. Kenneth Tier just needs to get his nose in front for one of these times just to get those couple of points, which would really help him along the way.
Yeah, that's a shame for Tier, but of course there's a lap every lap, so there's further opportunities for him to try and get that lead, and it looks like it's working through turn 2, and they are coming back to the Sim Race Sweden cars. But we are locked in now, almost a quarter of a way through this race, and it really seems like Sim Race Sweden, they sat on the back of the train, that big train that we had in that opening green flag run from lap 2 to about lap 18, but now they've worked their way to the front. They haven't pitted, and they're now running laps towards the front. Tier gets the run though off turn 4 this time.
And he get those points with this run up towards the line? He certainly can. So there's the first lap led from Tier, and he gets 2 points for his troubles. Now that puts him actually ahead of Cedric Holbom in the standings, but more importantly puts him 19 points ahead of Tony Uvenen in the standings as well, which is going to help him on his way to a top 15. Of course, if he wins at the end of the day and he leads the last lap, then it doesn't matter where everyone else finishes. He will be in the playoffs no matter what, and some others will be looking over their shoulder whether their points gathered have been enough. So far, it's been Jonas Skoglund who's led the most laps with 12. Wallen's led about 8. Holmer's led a couple, and now Tier has led one. So at the moment, the 2 points for the most laps there would go to Jonas Skoglund, who's way down just inside the top 30. He really needs a win.
Yeah, still plenty of time to change that, as once again it's the run to the line that is working out very nicely. And I like what Sim Race Sweden have done here. They've got Holmer and Ericsson together, locked in. Of course, we have the 71 there of Broström working his way back up towards the top. He is actually stopped. So Broström is the highest driver who has stopped. He's actually stopped a couple of times so far in this race. He did so on that very first caution, didn't pit in the next two, so that's what's brought him back up towards the front of the train. And he's a driver who said to us pre-race that he's just going to try and run at the front all day long. He does not care about saving fuel, doesn't care about the long game. He wants to just try and win this race and get himself involved up towards the front here. So he's doing a good job of it so far, after of course being a bit down in qualifying.
Was the line again, and Tier leads another lap. Yeah, so core of the race through already. I think qualifying is proving to be completely irrelevant for this race. It's almost a wonder why we even bother, because it bears so little relation to the end results anyway that it's difficult to really even remember where everybody was at the beginning. It's all changed very quickly indeed. But now that we're completing lap 26, guys like Kenneth Tier will be quite low on fuel. I'm just wondering, with Tier leading the pack, whether he will have to come in and make a green flag stop before that and before the stage, or whether he has saved enough under the cautions to go on. I don't think personally whether he's saved enough fuel to get to the end of the stage yet. I think maybe with one more caution he might be able to, but then he'd be thinking about the end of the race and pitting again maybe. So it's very, very difficult at the moment. Difficult to know who's in the best position, to take these points at the stage.
But I think the fact that they stayed out, those 10 drivers stayed out at that previous caution a few laps ago, I think that means they're going to get to the end, or they assume that they're going to get to the end. We'll have to find out, as we're 3 wide in the middle of the top 10. Also, Linus Broström's trying to go 3 wide. That is a risky move. Does he have the momentum? He hasn't got a push, but he does so, and he's going to get in front of his teammate Kenneth Tier. So that is somehow worked out. He had the momentum off too, and was able to get past his teammate. What a run to the front there. That's a gain of about 4 places. Oh, trouble in the background. Ayrton makes contact. He goes up into the air. Cars are flipping around. Caution is going to come back out. Someone is riding on the roof as well. Norgred's involved. So many drivers dropping down the way. And lap 27 brings out another caution.
That is the big crash, or the biggest we've seen so far, that's for sure. Just 27 laps into the day, and that is a lot of big names taken out there. We'll have to try and pick the damage out and see who it out of the race as a result of that. I've got a feeling that some big names may have been caught up in that. Let's have another look at it. Tony Uvenen is a huge name for this championship, and look at him here. He's off the floor here. He's being carried along by Lundberg, and it's into the water, still going. Now he crashes finally. Goodness me, he's got some big damage to repair and to persevere with for the rest of the day. With Stiller down at the back. Uvenen was suddenly in the top 15, but he won't be anymore.
Oh, such good avoiding action from a lot of drivers there, going onto that massive apron we have on the inside by the pit entry. But this was just getting all a little bit too much. Some drivers trying to go 3 wide, really not the ideal situation. But yes, Fredriksson, he just came up a little bit high, and that caused a stack up. Really unfortunate as well for Lundberg to get involved there. Not so much that he could do. And I mean, that's really good avoiding action from many of those drivers. That could have been way more drivers involved, but they were able to avoid that. But I should say for Uvenen, Ewan, that is a big issue for him regarding the championship, and he's going to struggle to really do as much as he would have wanted with that. As Bohlin decides to come in, as quite a few drivers are staying out, still trying to get to the stage.
I don't really know what Wallin's doing that for, to be honest with you, considering he's one of the only ones pitting in. Clearly not that bothered about the stage points, more bothered about the end of the race. If you are only focusing on the end of the race, which Bohlin probably is, then you would advise coming in at this stage. But Bohlin is one of those drivers who can't make it into the playoffs even if he does win. So a few of those drivers right on the bubble for the top 15 will be pleased if he wins, I suppose. Means none of their rivals will be, and they won't get bumped down. But Bohlin will be only focusing on the end of the race. This is quite a good time to come in, because if we go green the rest of the way, make one more stop halfway through the remainder of the race, in about 35 laps time to get yourself to the end of the race, and that works out quite nicely. So you can see why actually he would come in at this stage.
Absolutely, but for certain drivers, they like to be at the front. I was just saying that Linus wants to run to the front all day, and that move through the middle with no push either, just all on his own, timed well. I'm sure there would have been a bit of throttle control, let's say, from the 49 to try and help his teammate get in front, but still well played from the 71 to jump up about 4 places at the time, and now is leading the pack. And of course, get those extra couple of points as well. We need to shout out a few drivers such as Holmgren. He's having a good run up there in P5. Got Pfeffer in the 200. He's been in the wall, but he's still up there in P9. And Nicholas Helm, who's continuing his strong runs this season, up inside the top 10 once more.
Absolutely. There's going to be a number of those stories at the end of the day, but it's hard to forget we are still, so early on in this race. If the caution rate continues as we're going at the moment, we would still be able to finish all 100 laps, by the way. You have to have quite a lot of cautions to be under the constraints of time here today, because if we ran green the whole way through, it'd be way less than an hour and a half this race, because the circuit is so fast. So it would be quite something if we did see this race go to time. Hopefully we don't have that, but we will see on that, of course, when we get to the end, as the lights go out on top of the pace car now. On lap 31, we'll be back racing again, and it will feel like a real dash for the stage points then.
It certainly will. It's such an interesting track, and a really bold choice of the organisers to have this as the final race of the regular season as well. It's just so different and so unpredictable as well compared to the other races, but I guess that's why we love it, and that's why we come back here every season. I'm trying to think back to last season off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll be able to quickly check, but I think we had like Talladega or something towards the end of the season last time, so that was also a difficult one. But the drivers line up side by side, and are we going to make it to the stage of lap 40 on this green flag run?
Well, let's see. I think so, to be honest, but not sure, really, is the answer. I mean, there are a few drivers we've been talking about before. There are a few drivers up towards the front here who will be looking for those stage points to help them along the way in the title, or the top 15 fight, I should say. Kenneth Tier will be one of those especially. He's going to be pushing Linus Broström really hard on this restart for sure. Patrick Pfeffer as well in number 200 is going to be looking to move forward as well. He started the day 42 points behind the cut-off line. There is a real chance for him now, with the 3 ahead of him in the championship, Eric Lundberg, Tony Uvinen and Marcus Stiller all having problems so far. Tony Uvinen did get back out onto the circuit though, and he's now down in 31st. He's at least on the lead lap though.
This is certainly turning into an interesting race, almost a third of the way through, and we still, of course, have no idea how this one is going to end. We're getting some interesting 3-wide moments that are causing some incidents. We go back to green flag racing for the 4th time of asking, and the Superior 400 goes back to green flag racing. Linus Broström takes us underway. He's got his teammate Kenneth Tier pushing him on that low line, but of course we have all of the Sim Race Sweden cars on that top line. I say that though, but actually there's a bit of a 4-car breakaway, and unfortunately I think as Nicholas Helm has not been able to keep up, so they are sort of really splintered and they're not able to push along. It's actually Peter Helmer, I should say, in that top line. We're really spread out here at the front, and the drivers need to catch up, otherwise it's going to be very tough to be bum drafting. It's just the 2 Bright Esports left alone on the bottom line.
Well, it's going to all accordion together, and that's where the danger is really, when that second bigger group starts to really populate the front of the field. It's going to get very, very difficult indeed to manage, I think. So we'll see what happens when we get there. But for now, it's Broström versus Holmer at the front, with Broström not getting very much help, as you were discussing on the low line. Daniel Holmer is going to get even more help now from some more teammates. He'll lead lap 31, the end of 31, and he'll continue to rack up those numbers as well. But this is not looking great for the low line, and not looking great for Kenneth Tier either, who'll be looking for these points. Patrick Pfeffer, though, chooses to move forward on the low side there. He needs the points as well. He is moving on up there on that low line, and now gets to the back of Kenneth Tier to push him.
And look at the run from Sim Race Sweden on the top line. 5 cars in a row between their various individual entries, and they can work together very nicely if they, I'm sure they're all in communication. They've even got the 10 of Holmbom on that bottom line, who I'm sure is going to try and work his way up, and they position themselves absolutely amazing as we're coming on to lap 33 and just 8 laps remaining before the end of the stage. And are they going to be able to push Dan Holmer or maybe swap around and get Ericsson to the front to get the stage win? It's certainly an interesting prospect for them, but the bottom line is coming strong. They've bunched up, as you were mentioning, Ewan, and now we're trying to get the likes of Pfeffer pushing the 2 Bright Esports at the front.
I thought it'd be dangerous, actually, because I thought that that next group would start to actually make it 3 wide, or try to.
Yeah, brought a lot more energy to the low side.
Oh, dear me. What's the Constantino effect? And very nearly we had another situation like what we had on the secondary start, the one that didn't cause a caution, when there was a big stack up further down in the pack. Cedric Holmbom's also on the low side there, by the way. Holmbom was only 18 points above the cut-off line going into today. He's also placing himself well. It's so interesting that a lot of these drivers who are playing for these top 15 places are playing themselves into this so well, because only Eric Lundberg of these guys we're discussing at the moment, alongside Cedric Holmbom, have got more than 10 stage points so far. Suddenly, now that it matters at the final round, they're all here.
And they're trying last-ditch efforts to get the points that they need, and it gets to a point of desperation as well. If you want to get yourself inside the playoffs, because remember, if you're outside the top 15, you can still show up to the race, you can still try and win the race, but you can't win the championship. And at the end of the day, that is what everyone wants to do. A bit of a wiggling around still from the drivers as they try and position themselves in line with the car ahead. But they have calmed down a bit on the last 2 laps. No one is going for a 3-wide moment just yet. We've got about 8 cars on this top line with a bit of a gap behind. So I wonder if that's going to hinder them at all, but it seems to be working quite nicely. Low line just spreading out a bit again.
The low line starting to gather a bit more momentum here, and the top side not really encouraging anybody to come and help them at the moment. You can see that some of them further back starting to come back down again onto the low side. So this is looking good now for Linus Broström, getting pushed nicely, but just depends what Kenneth Cheer is going to do. How aggressive is he going to be to take this stage? And how aggressive is Broström going to be to keep it? Broström not playing for anything today other than playoff points, really. You only gain those by winning a stage or winning the race. So both of these top 2 in the low side are going to really want this stage win coming in 5 laps time.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think their goal ultimately is to not let the Sim Race Sweden cars win that on the outside, because remember, the team's championship is a thing as well, and it really is between Morby Bright Esports and Sim Race Sweden. So that is a hot prospect, and there's just 14 points between them as well. Very interesting indeed as all. We get a bit of side drafting here. The high line, they come down, they squeeze that low line, trying to stop there or steal their momentum. Very interesting tactics with all of them coming down there as the laps do tick on, and it's certainly getting to that point where actually a few more drivers are actually going on to that top line. They're trying to work their way to the front and get these points. Remember, it's just the top 10, but with the cars so bunched up, that's just basically the front 5 in each train.
Yeah, and look at the gap after the front 5 as well in that low line. As soon as you're outside of that top 10 and you want to be inside of it, you start to move around a little bit and change line, see if it can change your fortunes maybe. But it was just going the wrong way for the low line in the last couple of moments. Now they've won back the momentum again. They've closed back up into a more organised train, and Broström's continuing to lead here. He's racking up laps led, by the way, at the moment as well, approaching I think 8 or 9 at the end of this lap, so that's going all right, but still nobody with loads of laps led. Somebody can still take those extra couple of points if they need them in and around that top 15, out towards the end of another lap again. 3 more laps to go. Broström just with his nose ahead of the line again. It's looking good for the low side now.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's such a long line on that low side as well. Someone's almost below the double yellow onto the apron, one of the AKA Hero cars, and you've got to be careful with that. It is absolutely out of bounds apart from off turn 4 on the final lap, so need to be careful with that. Don't get any silly penalties coming into this final race. and it's a big push here on the bottom line as well. They're really starting to get close. They're quite spread out for a little while, but they are getting close once again. The two lines being very, very even at this point. No line pulling away just yet.
Not for the moment. 2 more laps to go, and as you say, a couple of people just looking down low, but it is out of bounds to go below the double yellow line. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but it's quite a big amendment into the ruling to say that it is allowed off of turn 4 on the last lap. I think we're going to see some craziness on the run towards the line, to be honest, because of that. We'll see how it actually pans out in practicality, but it's a very interesting ruling that it's not allowed for most of the race until those final few hundred metres.
Yeah, every driver for themselves coming to the checker, and when every point matters, that certainly could be an interesting one. But we still have 60 laps to go, and we have just 1 more lap to go. The end of lap 40 will be the stage. We will remain under green flag racing. Some drivers, remember, haven't pitted yet. Broström has, but the 8 cars behind him have not. As we come onto this final lap of the stage, you would assume they got enough fuel, otherwise he would have calculated that horribly wrong. And in just 2.5 miles, we're going to find out who gets the 10 points.
Here we go. This is big stuff now for the top 10 or so. Whether Linus Broström can hang on here for another playoff point. Can Kenneth Tier get a few more points towards his playoff charge as the outside line finally getting their act together now? They know that it's the last lap before the stage, and they know they're getting organised now. Holmer pushed by Ericsson, who's being pushed by Lucas Holmgren as well on the outside line. Inside with Broström, Tier and Patrick Pfeffer on the inside. They look like they're just going to win this momentum back through 3 and 4 on the way towards the line as well.
And this is going to be such an important one between the championship rivals in the teams. Morby Bright Esports, Simrace Sweden to the line. Who is it going to be? It looks like it's just going to be Linus Broström taking that stage win by a bumper as we remain racing under green flag. Lap 41 we go, but well done to Bright Esports, and they position themselves well there. They got the run off turn 4, but now are we going to see any of these drivers dive it down pit road? Those who have not stopped yet. Kenneth Tier down to Oscar Fredriksson at the front here. They all need to come down pit road, and yes, they're working their way to that bottom line so they don't have to cut across the traffic on pit entry.
Yeah, they can't afford to try and cut across the traffic particularly, so they've got to get down low, and this is where the danger comes as well. Although everybody seems pretty organised about it, everyone knows the score here, everyone knows what's about to happen, and here we go. Green flag pit stop for the first time this afternoon, and these guys better hope there's not a caution at the wrong time, otherwise they're going to be caught a lap down. Lucas Holmgren is going to lead the field around as Linus Broström leaves the lead. He will be almost tied with Joe Bohlin. They'll be very close for the most amount of laps led. Not that that matters to Broström at all. He won't care particularly. That leaves Lucas Holmgren as one of the only drivers not to have stopped so far this race. In fact, I think he's the only one.
And the reason why Broström's coming in is because, remember, we had that caution on lap 1, and that's when he pits. So fuel-wise, basically the same. And of course, in a situation like this, green flag pit stops, you want to come out the pits next to people. He doesn't want to come out 1 or 2 laps later and then basically be on your own getting back up to speed, and he has got Kenneth Tier behind him, so this is very good indeed. As we're getting a few more drivers come down pit road, that was a little bit awkward there from Dylan Platt in the 23 machine, but as we come across the line, lap 42, so we got Kjellberg, Leppitz, Skoglund and Platt, your top 4. Hellberg is our top 5. They are on that inside line. We've got a bit of a run on the outside from the 14, I think there's of Kinnell, but he's actually laps down. He's running at the front of that outside line.
It's all very split apart now after the stage, and a real change of pace with the leader as well. There's Cedric Holmbaum down low. Why is he so disconnected from the rest of the group? He's one of those contenders trying to stay inside the top 15 at the start of the day. With the stage points adjusted, and I've just put them into my own system, he's now 12 points ahead of Tony Uvinen, who is the one immediately below the cut line. But he's a lap down now, as will plenty more drivers in these next few moments.
Yeah, it's just that leading pack. They've got such momentum, such energy at this moment. When the driver's coming out of the pit lane, especially Holmbaum, he was on his own, so it took him so long to get back up to speed. We've also got Forsland here, and the driver around him, I think it's Holmer just in front. Again, it's just a 2-car train, so they have nowhere near the same speed as these lead drivers, so they are going a lap down. The driver's a little bit further up the road, they might be okay. We'll have to see. But this is getting awkward now because now we have lap down cars involved in this lead pack, and of course they're somewhat getting in the way, but that's this type of racing, and you got to find your own place on the track.
And look who's been abandoned up top here. Skoglund and Platt have sort of been abandoned up top by the rest of them through circumstance, really, rather than intention. But either way, it means that they're now running side by side for the lead as well. There's people scraping down the wall. Oh dear, this is dangerous stuff. This is a dangerous part of the race to be anywhere, really. It's where you want to be hanging around towards the back of a pack, in my opinion. You want to be in with the rest of the slipstream, of course, but you don't want to be in the middle of all this.
Yeah, this is very messy indeed. So Skoglund actually technically leads the race now after being hung out to dry. The 23's been left. His teammate Leppert needs to jump up and help him surely. But it's Bratberg in the Team Superior sponsoring this race, working his way to the front. He's in top 5. He's got his teammate not too far behind on that outside line as well. We've come back to a bit more normality, a bit of regularity as well. But remember, we've got some lapped drivers in there. 3rd and 4th in this low line is Holmer and Bomb, and for Simrace Sweden, they've already pit and they are a lap down, but in this train it's going to get very awkward.
It certainly is. You were thinking about the other train of drivers who might get caught here, by the way. I've just had a look at lap times. I think you're talking about Linus Broström, Kenneth Tier, Oscar Fredriksson and Jesper Eriksson, who are all in one long line. They are doing laps comparable with these guys at the moment, even though they are out on their own. I've just lost them. 48.1, there we go. 48.1 from those guys. Actually 48.3 from the race leader last time round, Jonas Skoglund. So they're actually going to be okay for the moment, but they're holding back quite a train. Look at them up there. Not the driver on their own. Who's that? It's Oliver Bohlin, who's on his own in number 72. But the 4 up ahead, they're doing okay, and they're actually going quicker than these guys.
Well, that's good. That's good news. With 3 wide in the middle of the pack there, that is getting very difficult. Very difficult indeed, as drivers try and find a place for themselves. Risks being taken. That's because they're going around the 14 of Kinnell, who is a lap down. And I think Kinnell was actually the one who was in the wall just a couple of laps ago. Wallen on his own in the 72 there. He's now going a lap down. He's been absolutely freight trained, just showing you the difference in the energy with the slipstream and the bump drafting. It is not the nicest situation to be in, so he's actually lost out to Holmer as well, who's worked his way through with the lead pack.
Watch out in the middle there. Is that Nicholas Helm trying to come through? Yeah, it is. He's back in the top 5 again. It feels like he hasn't been here for weeks, Nicholas Helm, but he's back again. He's actually got a chance. He's one of those drivers who could spoil Daniel Solo's evening if things go drastically wrong for him. He's currently down in 15th, but he's sort of doing what I would be doing, which is hanging towards the back of this group while staying in the slipstream at the same time. He's probably doing the smart thing, to be honest. But Helm was in that top 10 at the stage point, and so he took some of those. It's actually his first stage points of the season, I believe. It is indeed. So he'll be pleased with that, but he's working his way through at the moment. 5th place, although he's now leading the outside line, which is going backwards. Jonas Skoglund still being pushed out front to lead another lap.
And Helm finds his way down to the low line. Well, I say that. Did he actually complete that move down to the low line? He did. So the low line has got all the energy. We've just got 4 cars up there. So it changes around so quickly here at Daytona. They work their way up and down, left and right, wherever is going to get them to the front fastest. And it is working very nicely for these at the front at the moment. But we have seen a couple of interesting little bits of contact here and there. They need to be careful with the drafting as we're coming on to lap 50, as we look at car 50 of Leppert, and they'll be halfway through the race after a bit of a stunted first quarter. The middle second quarter has been a lot better.
It has. We've had a long green flag run now, the longest of the day, coming up to 18 laps at the end of this one. The previous longest was 12 laps, the second run of the race. So we're pleased that we're knocking off a few laps now, although the smaller groups certainly help. The top 10 or so here will need to be pitting in the next 10 laps or so because of when they last pitted. Robert Eriksson would assume, be second. Dylan Platt would assume the lead in that situation. And they will be starting to think about that now because that's over 30 laps of a stint. They will have had 1 caution in between that time, maybe 2, but they won't. I wouldn't have thought they'd be able to get to 40 laps again in that run. So because those who made it to lap 40 before had a few more cautions to play with, and they had a bit more fuel saving, I think, to do as well. So I think it's not going to be too long until we see another change of lead and another round of green flag pit stops, quite possibly as well.
Yeah, that is very true. Of course, we've got the different strategies out there because of when all the cautions were. So that changes things quite a lot. We've got just 2 cars now on this outside line. We've got the 12 of Marcus Hogman. He needs to try and find his way down because he's got no pushing behind. There's a big gap up to Kinnell on that outside line. But Kinnell, as mentioned, is a lap down. So Marcus needs to find a friend, actually. And that might be Oliver Bohlin in the 72. Who is a lap down and trying to work his way to the front. But actually, look at Hogman. He has got a big run. Somehow, no direct push from the background. Maybe the 72 just being in the car length behind him was enough to push him up towards the front.
Maybe there is a bit of fuel saving going on the inside line as well. It's entirely possible, but Hogman's going to race right round the outside and almost to the lead. Feels like it might be a train of drivers caught up who are not going to be pitting in the near future because they're not going to be able to get down low. So I should hope they don't need to pit again. Kinnell in the wall again through turn 1, and that is going to be a bit of a problem for the outside line. He's only got Bohlin has Marcus Hogman. You're not going to be able to rely on Kinnell because he keeps dropping back.
Yeah, Kinnell's been in the wall a few times now. I don't know, is that because he's spending too much time looking in his mirror because he's a lap down, or is that car just not turning the way that he would have wanted through turns 1 and 2 especially? Yeah, definitely not the performance that team would have wanted. Lap 52 we're on, and we have a 2-car train on the outside, but it seems to be working better than about the 15-car train on the inside. So 12-car Marcus Hogman is coming up towards turn completely lost where we were there, through turn 1, and he's working very nicely indeed. Oliver Bohlin is trying to push him. He's trying to basically catch up to the cars ahead as well, because at that previous pit stop he unfortunately went a lap down because he was not able to keep up with that lead train, the one that you were focusing on a bit earlier, Ewan, with Brewstrom, Tier, Fredrickson, Ericsson, etc. 10 laps now they've been out there, but they have not been caught up by this lead train.
I think they've been getting further away, actually. They did a 47 not so long ago, but right now they're back into the back into the 47s again, actually, last time round. So they're going quite well as these guys come over the line again. They're sort of slowing each other down, if you like, by going like this. Matthias Kjellberg, meanwhile, comes into the pit lane pretty much on his own.
Yes, which tells me that a few more of these drivers, 35 lap stint for most of these drivers at the front, apart from Hogman and Platter on 25 because of the caution that they pit on. So those with 35 laps, I wouldn't be surprised if in the not too distant future, the next couple of laps, they will be coming in as well. And that's a bit of an awkward time because it's a bit too far to get to the end of the race as well. So they will need 2 pit stops to get to the end, and they'll be hoping for a caution later on.
Yeah, same, I think, for these drivers who are about to come in from this lead group. So it's going to be pretty dicey for them as far as to whether they can make it home or not. Watch for Kinnell again here, by the way, as he now makes his way actually to the bottom side. But just watch him through in towards turn 1. I thought he was... he looks fine this time round, but you will have noticed last time round that those behind him just backed off, eased off a little bit because he was in the wall and all sorts through turn 1 last time round. He's gone to the low side now, and so the high side's got a bit more momentum behind it, and Marcus Hogman might be able to come back through to the lead again.
Indeed, it ebbs and flows depending on how the drivers are going. I wouldn't be surprised if is like you said, Ewan, a few laps ago, with maybe a bit of fuel saving on that low line, because the way Hogman got to the front that time was really weird, and now all of a sudden the bottom line has all this energy again. There's Kjellberg just up ahead of them as well, showing it's almost exactly a lap that you lose when you go down pit road, but the issue is that he's got no help at all. So he's even slower. Even if he had a couple of guys with him, they would be bump drafting and they'd be further up the road. But he's on his own, and he's going to get swamped by this lead pack coming past him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, the group is in such a fashion that he'll be able to get in with the group once it's past him, but yeah, that doesn't really help. As far as the lead lap goes, careful everybody, this is going to be a free wide moment, and so you've got to be very wary indeed of where you're placing your car and indeed who's around you, because these are the moments that can cause cautions. Thankfully, some of the others coming in this time round, so another round of pit stops will begin.
Oh! 31 and the 14 onto the grass. They couldn't slow down. That's Fagerberg and Kinnell. Kinnell's been struggling all day, but Fagerberg as well in the 31 there, just getting his wheels onto the grass, locking up as he comes down into the pit box as well. There was a big shoot to the left as well from the AKA Hero cars as they work their way to pit road, and certainly some big aggressive late calls being made by these teams as we work our way through turn 3 and 4 once more, and we're going to see if anyone is going to join them and come down pit road. So it's now 38 laps for a few of these drivers at the front.
Yeah, it's going to be pit stops shortly, I would have thought, and now that there's a few less around, they're going to come in, and probably a good idea. Can they get it slowed down in time? Skoglund perfectly, as well as Helm as well. So Hagman's going to lead another lap, his second of the afternoon, and Skoglund is going to come into the pit lane from the lead. He will be pretty pleased with that. 42 to go, though, means another pit stop a little bit later on. Still, a couple of drivers who have not pitted yet, who should have done. Pontus Norgren is going to be one of the only ones.
Yeah, this is getting so messy on the back straight, as that's Stiller and the 013 dropping to the back of this pack. But oh my word, these guys really moving around. All of a sudden, the Alcantech cars, haven't spoken about them for a while. Also, Peter Helmbro, they've worked their way in here as they sat on the back for quite a while, trying to keep out of trouble. And it seems to be working. We've got the 4 Alcantech cars all sitting in a row, so that tells you that they've, purposefully worked their track position to be together, and they're just sitting there nicely waiting for their opportunity to pounce a bit later.
And they're going to sweep up a lot of the remnants of who we just saw come in, by the way, because the other group of guys who pitted immediately after the stage have left them behind. They've made so much good speed on their own. They're actually out front on their own now. So Linus Broström's still ahead of Kenneth Thier, then it's Oscar Fredriksson, then it's Jesper Eriksson. They've got 3.5 seconds over Nicholas Helm, who's next. And then Jonas Skoglund's just getting up to speed. He's getting in with the rest of the group, like Dylan Platt, Jonas Lepit, Robert Eriksson. They're in a group on their own as well. They're going to be swept up by this big group before too long, if there is any big group left after all of these pit stops, and then it will be just those 4 out front on their own. They've got 5 seconds over the rest.
Yeah, that worked out nicely, and the fact, and this is exactly why I mentioned at the time that Broström came in maybe a lap or two short. I'm 100% sure he would have had fuel left in the tank, but he came in with the pack so that they could go out together and do this bump drafting to stay ahead. So we were not seeing them on track, but they are just a few seconds, as Ewan is saying, they're just a few seconds up the road from this, staying on the back of the lead lap. But of course, when all the pit stop cycles happen, with these cars out on the track, they've now done 31 laps. So in the next 8-9 laps, they're going to be coming in. And then with it being almost exactly a lap for a pit stop, they'll still have that gap ahead and potentially about a 5-second lead. So this is working out nicely indeed.
Yeah, and if you wondered what that would mean for the playoffs, by the way, that would pretty much confirm Kenneth Thier in the top 15 at the end of the day. So he will be making the playoffs. It would then be between Holmboom, Stiller, Uvinen and Pfeffer, really, as to who gets there or not. Stiller is still in 34th, 11 laps down because of his issues earlier on in the day. He's just running around for the points. Holmboom at the moment is 24th. He's a lap down, but I think he's in this group somewhere with the rest of the leaders. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. And Tony Uvinen at the moment is in this group as well, also a lap down. He's 23rd at the moment, so very close, but Stiller at the moment would be making it with Holmboom. Tony Uvinen needs to gain about another 5 places to overtake Stiller in the standings and make the top 15 at the end of the season.
But of course, it's going to it's going to change quite a lot, I'd assume, before the end of the race. But, Ewan, we've had such a long green flag run. I'll just jinx it now, haven't I? But we've had such a long green flag run that it's working these strategies nicely. And this is what I love. When we have these green flag pit stops, we have people driving all the way to the end of the fuel tank. And we have some interesting situations to the end, because those who pit early, remember, they are also going to need a splash. Whereas these guys who are leading at this moment, they just need one more pit stop to the end. But some drivers who've already stopped also need one stop to the end. But who's at the lead at this moment in time? Well, the ones we're looking at now. So a caution at some point to the end will change things up quite a lot.
Absolutely. So, and here's the second group, by the way. They've actually swept up quite a lot of drivers now. So they've got some real help here. But the fact they're going side by side means they're not quite as quick as they once were. But there's Broström at the front in 71. Then it's Tyr. Then Fredriksson, who's next in line. Then Jesper Eriksson. That's it from those who are still on the lead lap, by the way. The front four is all you really have to worry about. And Kenneth Tyr here is racing his way into the top 15 in that second place. It's a masterstroke of strategy. Those behind are just getting towed along for the ride, and they're not really being a hindrance, and they're getting along quite well, so they'll be fine. But you're right, they will have to come in again. That's the problem. And look at the top 9 on the left-hand side of your screen: Hagman, Dahlström, Blix, Solo, Gunnarsson, Haflidsson, Helbro, Wallin, Broström, all with just one stop remaining, like these guys. So it's a 30-second head start, effectively, is what the top 9 have got, as they're running around with all the other lap cars in what I'd still describe as the main group, but only just.
Yeah, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. Yeah, so look at that. That's the visual gap that some of these drivers have to catch up on what they've lost, really, with the difference of the pit stops. But it's so difficult because sometimes you just have to gamble. You have to gamble with the cautions, and if you get a bit unlucky later on, then that's what happens. But with this one, it is interesting because the maths didn't add up. For when they stopped at the first caution, the maths did add up. A few more drivers now jumping down pit road, as this lead group are on 35 laps on this stint. And of course we are at the point of having about 35 to the end, so it is getting to the point now where they can, of course, as we're mentioning, get to the end on fuel. And even if you have cautions later on, you'll just be thinking about if you want fresh tyres or not.
Exactly. And so a good time as any to come in, really. Christopher Dahlström, the only one, though, from the top 9 to come in. Some of the others were laps down. Hagman, by the way, has got a big gap over the rest of his rivals. There's Eric Blix. Look, he's right in the middle of the pack. He's second. There's so many drivers who are only slightly one lap down, and I'm slightly surprised, actually, they haven't tried to go around him. Now Marcus Hagman is going to come in, so lots of those drivers get back on the lead lap. Eric Blix is the race leader, although he doesn't look like it. That has put about 6 or 7 other drivers back on the lead lap again.
It certainly has, and this is an interesting one. But I guess the Alcantara cars, they're just going to sit there. If they try and make a second pack and go past, I don't know if that's the most efficient way or really safest way for them to get there. And they're sitting nicely. They're going to be going longer. They have fresher tyres at the end, of course. And if there is a caution right now, then they're still leading. So I think it's a strong strategy where they are. But yes, you, as we mentioned before, you never quite know exactly how this is going to work out, because when they pit, the likes of Broström, etc., they'll be going for about another 15 laps. So if there's then a caution in that time, then they'll be at the back of the pack. So it really just depends on the timing of that, if it comes towards the end of this race. But yeah, certainly a weird one when you have the leader about P6 in the train.
Exactly. And the leaders in no longer the biggest pack in the field. I would say that it's probably around the other part of the circuit now, the largest train, if you want, by numbers. But everybody's so organised now, everybody knows the score. There's not much point battling side by side here in this race at the moment. It is about single file, it is about maximising your speed. Last time round, though, was only a 49 for these four. Further round in the other group, Skoglund did a 47.8. Broström did a 48.1, so they're both going quicker than these four at the moment, because ideally they do need to be at the front of the group. But you're right, they're not going to try and go round them. They have to come in anyway, so they can't really afford to go on the outside.
Yeah, they just got to sit there and hope that the group at the front is going quick enough. But I mean, they're just trying to catch up as well, so to the Linus Broström train. So they're not going to be going any slower than they would want to do either. So this is certainly a tough point of the race. As we see Robert Eriksson there in the middle in the orange machine, of course, for Team Superior. And this is the Superior 400, and we are into the final third of the race now. round 14 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. We've been racing for 6 months, and now we are about to find out in this final third of the race the top 15 to go to the playoffs. All Tech boys come down pit road all at the same time. Who would have thought? Hopefully no speeding penalties, as they will come out together to try and challenge for this victory. If it goes green to the end, they're looking strong, but just will that happen?
They are looking very good if this race goes green to the end, but they are going to have challenges. We'll see if they come out around them after these pit stops. Beforehand, they were running with the likes of Marcus Hagman, who's now leading a small group, very small group, with Peter Helmbro at the moment. I'd imagine that these guys will have been left behind as well, because their speed wasn't great as they were running out there at the moment. Let's see if there's any speeding penalties for anybody here. A person gets out alongside Gunnarsson, and yeah, they are pretty much together. There goes the leaders. So Linus Broström will be the leader now. Oh dear, hello. They all get very close to one another. So back out onto the circuit they will go, with still 32 laps to go. But Linus Broström is going to lead ahead of Tyr, then Fredriksson, then Ericsson in this group. These are the leaders. Where are the Tech guys going to be? They're going to be even behind the likes of Skoglund, who's in behind. So they even behind those lap cars has actually cost them quite a lot of time.
Indeed, but they're going to the end, whereas this pack of cars at the front, especially the top 4, they need to pit again. So it's they're really hoping for a caution, but we'll have to see if that one comes out. We're coming on to lap 70 of the race, and we'll use this opportunity to take some words, some messages from our partners before we bring you through the end of this race. And the engines still roar here at Daytona. Lap 72, the Superior 400, the final race of the regular season for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. There's myself, Cam Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we bring you to the checkered flag here. And still just 27 laps of action coming your way. Linus Broström leads a train of 4 cars with Tyr, Fredriksson and Ericsson in behind. They all need to stop to the end of this race. There's a few drivers in behind, the likes of Skoglund, Helm, Platt and Leppit, who they are very much on the limits whether they get to the end. So it really depends on if and when a caution comes out, how this is going to work. About half a lap behind, we of course have some leaders, or the previous leaders of all of the Alcantech cars. They just stopped. They can go to the end. So it really is an interesting one with the flags and how they are going to drop. If it stays green to the end, these guys are going to struggle with the track position, but you never know, and they tried something different. Broström leads, as he has done for quite a while now. They come down pit road though, so this is a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but I guess they are just trying to get out onto the track together once more. And it's interesting that even though they are not teammates, Bright Esports and Sim Race Sweden all come in at the same time.
Yeah, so just prior to that, they have been caught by Skoglund, Helm, Platt and Leppit, and so the group have got a bit bigger. The second group in line had clearly been pushing on. That surely means they haven't been fuel saving in the hopes of making it to the end, as you were discussing there. I think they're right on the limit. I think actually they're not going to make it in terms of fuel. They're going to have to pit again, in my opinion. So that's what all that pushing on was about. But now they're in the group. Now they're in a bit of a smaller group all over again. They'll let those others get out and run around on their own again. Broström will be a long way behind, though, what I believe is the leading group. That's headed by Erik Blix at the moment in 7th place. He's got Solo behind, along with Gunnarsson, Vlisen, Holmer, Forsund, Kjellberg and Holmbom. I believe most of those can make it home, with a few exceptions in there for the likes of Holmer, Forsund and Holmbom, and some question marks there as well. But that's the leading group, really. These guys are only leading for the moment. They're going to have to give it up again in about 15 laps' time.
Yeah, although Hagman and Helmbro on the back of this lead battle, they are close to making it to the end, and they're 7 seconds ahead of Blixt in the Alcantech cars. So if they can save and get to the end and we go green, they might just be some dark horses. We'll have to see how that one goes, and you never know if it's going to work in their favour at all. But that's certainly a fascinating prospect. They are a few seconds behind this pack though, that's moving all over the place, and drivers are really wiggling about as Helm goes to the front, and of course they have the 31 ahead of them, Fagerberg, who is just on the tail end of going a lap down.
Yeah, he is the last driver on the lead lap as things stand. And he's been freight trained, really, by everybody on the outside line. Skoglund tried to get this going a little bit of time ago, but now he's finally got the lead, as he would have liked. But they've got to get organised again here. They've got to get back in a single file line, otherwise they're going to go nowhere. And yeah, it is true, Hagman and Helmberg probably are going to be close to making it as well, but there's just 2 of them. I'm not sure there are around very many lap cars either that are going to help them push on either, so I'm not sure they're going to have a head-to-head for the race win, if you like. I'm not sure it's going to be quite that simple just for the moment, even if we do stay green, even with their big advantage, because they've got a fairly healthy pack of chasers behind who will be looking to catch them before the end.
Yeah, so Blix is only 5.5 seconds behind, and he was 9/10 quicker last time around, so way quicker than Helmbro and Hagman. So yeah, they're going to be absolutely freight trained by the Alcantech cars, going best part of a second a lap faster. So that one, as you say, isn't going to last too long. So it's it's coming to a head very much. Just over 20 laps remaining in this race. A mixture of strategies going out there on the track, and I would say the Alcantech cars at the moment, while we're not seeing them on the cameras, they are looking very good indeed. Sat there in 7th place, down to the back end of the top 10.
They are looking good. And this is why. Look at the organisation here compared to what we were just watching. This is so much better organised, and it's not even all made up of drivers on the lead lap, nor is it made up of drivers on the lead lap on the same strategy. They are so well organised here. And just going through the bottom of your shot there was Hagman and Helmbro. They do have 2 or 3 lap drivers with them, but nothing like this, nothing like the organisation of this. This is an Alcantech masterclass we're watching at the moment, and they're going to be able to fight it out for the race win between themselves if this continues.
They love doing it on these super speedways. Blix and Solo, they worked so well here last last year where Solo won the opening race of the season. They've lost some cars in behind, though. Some of the Sim Race Sweden cars dropped down pit road. There's a Holmer, Holm Bomb, and one of the others, Forsland as well, all coming in. But so it's now just the 4 of the Alcantech cars left out. But even Talladega last season as well. I think it was all 6 cars where you had a Salandon. That's into the wall there. That is... I mean, he's just completely missed his pit box. That's not the way you want to do it. But yeah, they had Salander and who was the other one? No, Uhrmann as well. They had 6 of them all doing this strategy. So they know what they're doing. They've got previous, and they're coming for this race win.
And at the moment, they're in prime position to get it, I think. As Dylan Platt takes the race lead, by the way, for the first time here tonight. Looking increasingly like Skoglund's going to get those extra 2 bonuses for leading the most laps tonight. So it's going to be out the question for any of those top 15 chasing drivers. Dylan Platt's an interesting one here out front at the moment on that sort of bubble with the others in the group. But look at this, almost 4 wide on the back straight now. Guys coming out the pit lane, people on the off the lead lap. Skoglund now going to the inside of people who he's supposed to be working with. It's very, very disorganised.
Indeed, and that is why they're losing some tenths. The speed is not terrible, but of course it's just more inconsistent with how it's going. Lap 82 we are going to come on to as Platt gets another lead lap. And yeah, I'm very interested to see how this is all going to resolve out, because as I mentioned, these top 4 drivers, they need to pit. But then Helmbro and Hagman, is there anything that they're going to be doing? Oh no, they definitely cannot, because they were 1.5 seconds slower than Blixt last time. Blixt is now basically on the back of Helmbro and Hagman. Just a couple of laps ago I said there's a 5-second gap, and now they are on the back of them. So Helmbro and Hagman, they're going to be freight trained, and they might even lose that slipstream if they can't get in behind.
Yeah, so that's the race for the lead, and they should get back to the slipstream, but you're right, it's not a very big group, and now it's happening. Now the group is going past. So Eric Blix is working his way forward now. Helmbro and Hagman, as you say, have to get in with the rest of the group, and they're going to, because it's actually a bigger group than when we last left them. There's been some more swept up here, so they are going to get in. But Blix gets through. This is the battle for the lead. This will be the battle for the win if we stay green to the end. But it's a bigger group than before from what we were seeing. But it's very interesting how they've swept up a few more lap cars. Careful, somebody in the wall will get away with it, and Blix will now move up into 5th place, will be the lead when the front 4 come in the next 15 laps.
And this will be big for Alcantech, but they need to get Gunnarsson to the front of this pack on that last lap, because he needs the win the most, because Solo and Blix, they've already got their wins. The number 1, Havlinson, he's just too far behind anyway. But so the 33 really needs to get the win, and then also be inside the top 30. He was 30th in the standings coming into this, but it didn't have the win. So they need to work that 33 car to the front of the pack as well. And then despite coming halfway into the season, they would have 3 cars in the playoffs. That would be quite remarkable, and just showing you how good this team is. But as you say, they're very organised, they know what they're doing, and they are now sitting in 5th place with all 4 cars ahead of them, 100% pitting before the end of this race.
And one more thing, by the way, about the playoffs, that would put Marcus Stiller out of the playoffs if Gunnarsson were to win. So you want to be in 15th place, that's fine, but realistically you actually want to be 14th, because any lower and you're susceptible to this happening. A new race winner winning themselves into the playoffs at the end of the season. This is on board, by the way, with Fredriksson, who's just in behind Broström. He's got Ericsson behind him, then Prattberg and Forsell also behind him. They've lost one here.
Tier.
Anyway.
Kenneth Tier.
Yeah, they have lost Kenneth Tier. Where's he gone? He's miles behind, yeah. So that's going to take some unpacking. He is miles behind. Suddenly he's under a bit of threat for the playoffs as well. I'm going to really need some time on the calculator here in the next few moments, because this is very difficult. But he's miles away. Yeah,
he's behind them in the train. He's there in the 49, but he's a lap down. So he's basically had an extra. It's probably, he had an extra, because we've said this the whole time, the pit stop is about almost exactly a lap. So he's done an extra pit stop, and he's come out in the same place in the train, but unfortunately 2.5 miles behind where he wants to be.
Yeah, so Kenneth Tier is currently 13th place in the points. He's a lap down. Holmbaum's 14th. He's a lap down. Stiller's 15th. He's 10 laps down. Uvenen is 16th. He's a lap down as well, and he's got to stop, so he's really 2 down. None of them have had a very good day, but that works well for the people who are already inside the top 15.
Yeah, what a race this is turning into in terms of the points and in terms of the implications of the results. Lap 86 of 100. We've had such a long green flag run, and I've really enjoyed this actually. The strategies have played out, and the drivers gambled at the cautions earlier on, not knowing how we were going to be later in the day. But it's been such a long green flag run. We've had green flag pit stops. We've had drivers having to do some fuel saving, and now with 13 laps to go in this race, we are seeing this all come to a head. But still a lot can happen in 13 laps. We had a couple of cautions in the first 13 laps as such. So let's see how this one works out. So this is your leading group, but really it is just 4 cars who are all on that low line. So it's the 23, the 50, the 83 and the 55 on that low line. They are all the ones actually leading this race.
Yeah, and they're going to be pretty annoyed that they're all being slowed down by some lap drivers trying to get round them on the outside line as well here. So there's going to be a bit of unhappiness going on here in this group, I would have thought. Plenty of drivers there on the outside. They're trying to get their lead lap back, like Fagerberg and Holmbaum as well, who's on the outside line. This is pretty important stuff for these guys, trying to get round them and onto the lead lap. But yeah, it's been one of those races where we've had big groups, but not many of the people you're seeing on your screen at the moment actually matter for the race win.
Indeed, it's turning to be a very awkward point of the race for these 4 drivers, because not only do they have the extra pit stop to do as they go past Kjellberg, who's had an interesting middle part of the race. Not only do they have an extra pit stop basically to make so their strategy is a bit on the downhill, but they're also being slowed down in terms of their lap speed as well. Although having said that, their last lap is actually not too bad, and they are faster than the Alcantech crew. So it is working, whatever they're doing, but it's certainly more messy and more risky way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's not good when you're passing and lapping people as well. They're about to pass another solo straggler who has lost the crane of and the slipstream of somebody out front. So it just creates more problems when you're doing that as well. Notice, by the way, in the second group how they've placed their cars now, Alcantech. Exactly as you were saying, Gunnarsson to win and get in is their best chance at getting as many cars into the playoffs as possible, because you're right, Herversen's not going to be involved. Solo's having a good enough day to stay in the top 30 and be in the playoffs at the end of the season, and Eric Blix has already done enough. So Jonas Gunnarsson's the last one, and they've placed him out front on his own with 3 helpers behind.
Well, just call me the Alcantech crew chief. But I do know that at least Hafliderson does listen to the streams sometimes when he's racing, so he knows what we're saying in the commentary booth. As the top 4 come into the pit lane, so the 4 that we were looking at, they were leaders on the track. That puts Gunnarsson to the front. 10 laps remain, winning, he's in, and he's in position to do so.
Goodness me, what a huge moment that would be for Jonas Gunnarsson if he could just get himself in at the moment. The other contenders have already been through the other Alcantechs. Peter Helmbro is also here. He's guaranteed into the playoffs on points. He's actually the best point scorer of anyone who hasn't won a race so far this season. And Marcus Hagman is the second best of anyone who hasn't won a race so far this season. So those 2 are fine on points and they're in. There's no incentive for them to win the race other than the 5 playoff points and the fact they will want to win a race. 10 laps still to go, and how do you get past these Alcantech drivers?
The only good thing really that you can think if there's a caution for these guys is that they're going to have a 2x2 at the front as well when we get to a green flag, so they can still control it a little bit should there be a caution. I believe everyone will still have a fresh set of tyres as well for a last lap dash, but it's certainly slightly tense there because of basically the need for Gunnarsson to win this race. They came in halfway through the season. They had such amazing speed. You know, Blixton Solo, they've got 3 race wins, I believe, is between them. Then you've got to have Hafliderson, who's also been fast, but he hasn't done all of the races, so he was never going to get into the top 30 on points anyway. Then it just left Gunnarsson to see what he can do. he's been on the podium, he's almost won races, but it's never quite happened. He's been involved in a few big battles, and now the final chance, and he might just do it, but there's still a long way to go with it being 8 laps on the longest track of the calendar.
And what a fantastic green flag run this has been as well. Hopefully it continues on right to the very end. It's well over 200 kilometres now, by the way, this green flag run. That's the longest since we've seen since the start of the Nashville race / end of Charlotte. That was between the Christmas break, those two races. Charlotte happening the last one of 2024, Nashville the first of 2025. That's how long it's been since we've seen a green flag run like this one. And just a few laps ago, by the way, we passed 4,000 kilometres done for the season. 8 more laps still to go here at Daytona, though. And what a finish we're going to have here. Can anybody get past these 4 Oakentecs at the front?
Well, Helmbro and Hagman, I mean, they're not going to get past all 4 of the Oakentecs, surely. And also they don't need to. They don't need to take the risk, apart from the fact they just want to get a race win, and every driver certainly wants to do that. We got a driver on the outside line here of Oliver Bohlin, I think it is, trying to find his way to the front, but yes, it's certainly a tricky situation if you're stuck behind this battle, because the Oakentecs are pushing, so they're going at some fairly fast speed. Basically everyone inside this top battle, of course, did a 4, because they're all following each other, they do the same lap times. They all did a 48.3, which is near enough the fastest out there on the track. We got Helm and Platt doing 48.1s, but still very good speed at the front here.
Still good speed to have. Best laps today in the 46s. I think those fastest lap points are going to go to Jonas Skoglund, from what I've seen so far. So that's not going to matter particularly for the top 15 either. Tony Uvinen has made his final pit stop, by the way. He's only 6 positions actually ahead of Marcus Stiller. He needs to be about 15 ahead. So all Stiller is hoping for now is for Gunnarsson to not win the race. Stiller can't get past Holmbaum or Tier. They are too far away. They're ahead of him at the moment. He needs something to happen here, Marcus Stiller. Otherwise, he will be out the playoffs. And I don't think that's him. That's one of his teammates just further on in the background. But it would be quite funny if he tried to get involved himself, despite being 10 laps down.
And something, I can't remember the exact situation, but I do remember an interestingly timed caution at one of, I think it was one of the playoff races last year as well, that the Oakentec cars weren't happy about. That seemed to probably benefit Jesper Eriksson on that day, such as the battle last season. But all it would do at this point, actually, with 5 laps remaining, is sort of neutralise and in many ways help Oakentec. So we do hope he goes green. Havlicton, he's got the number 1 on the car, but he will not be in the playoffs to regain that number 1. We have known this for some time though, but it of course will be confirmed today that the number 1 car will be going to someone else next season. It wasn't Gunnarsson's car, of course, last season.
Someone was stopped there in the infield in the grass for some reason. Clearly no caution, but I don't know if I was seeing things. I'm pretty sure there was someone just stopped on the grass on the inside.
I looked away for a few seconds, but Bratberg and Forsell definitely have dropped down on the timing screens. So I wonder if they were involved somehow. But lap 96, we are coming on to lap 97.
How can these guys get past? Are they interested? Oliver Bohlin is very interested in getting something going here on the outside line. He's a lap car, but he is very, very interested indeed in getting something going here. I suspect if Helmbro and Hagman are going to go for this, then they have been leaving it late anyway, because there's not much point showing your cars on the table immediately and trying to get side by side with still 10 laps to go. It's pointless, really. You want to be doing it about now. So if there is going to be a move, it's going to start to happen pretty shortly, and you can just see a bit of restlessness towards the back end of the group. Oliver Bohlin is certainly going to help them. It seems like he just wants to have a bit of fun, to be honest with you. He's certainly going to help them. If they go up there again, look at him. He's almost shouting at them, please come up and join me, do something. But at the moment, it's not happening. Here we go, maybe.
Yes, lap 97. We're going to have 3 more tours of this track. The number 1's blocking. The number 1 is blocking. And we have Oakentec with the 3 cars at the front. The 4th one in behind. We've got a slow car on the inside. We're trying to get Helmbro making something happen, as they have just 7.5 miles left in this race. The Superior 400 is coming to an end. The end of the regular season for the Svenska Eracingligan. And Jonas Gunnarsson has positioned himself himself perfectly to get this win and put himself in the playoffs, but he's got a few hungry drivers in behind. It's actually Forslund now, who's not involved in this. He's lapped down, trying to get involved. If he gets in between some of these Alcantech cars, that could be very messy and help Hagman in behind.
And that was a very aggressive block from Hafthulsen, though. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of it. It was very, very forceful indeed towards turn 3. It nearly split the group up for good, actually, but not quite. Hagman got in front of Helmbro, and now they're coming up with a bit more momentum. On the outside line through turn 4, here they come again. It's about pushing on the inside line for Alcantech. It may, though, be about blocking. There he goes. Hafthulsen's up front again. Forsen sort of in the way as well at the moment, so they can't really move their line. He's going to get run over if he's not careful, Hafthulsen.
Yeah, Hafthulsen is kind of a do or die situation, because now he's lost his track position, and actually he's not going to be able to defend his teammates as we come on to this final lap with 1.5 laps to go. He's really out for the count now, and now it's down to Dan Solo and Blixt to try and push Gunnarsson to the win. He needs this win to get into the playoffs. He's got 2 teammates helping him now with just over 2.5 miles to go. Forsen in the green number 27 cars, not involved in this. It's the blue of Marcus Hagman and Helmbro, who just wiggles to the inside as we come onto the final lap.
Yeah, contact with Hafthulsen, and so he's going to get no help here, Hagman. No help at all. And so it's surely going to be Alcantech who take this now at the front. It's aggressive racing from them. If it takes them a lap at a time to get past one of the Alcantechs, this is never going to work. Helmbro and Hagman are going to scrap for 4th with Hafthulsen, but that's all it's going to be. It is not going to be a victory for them, surely. Gunnarsson's going to take this, surely.
We are 3 wide as Hafthulsen is doing everything he can to stop anyone else challenging Alcantech at the front. And what a masterclass it's been from this team. They joined halfway through the season. They knew the task they had at hand. Win a race, get inside the top 30. Blixt has done it. Solo's done it. And as we come to the line, the 33 is being pushed by his teammates. He's going to take the victory and lock himself into the playoffs. The 33 ran out of fuel in a few races. He couldn't get there, but he's finally done it here at Daytona.
Fantastic work from Alcantech. 1, 2, 3, 4, the reward for their effort on the day as well. Jonas Gunnarsson gets a place inside the playoffs. At the start of the day, he was 30th, exactly where you need to be. If you win a race, you need to be in the top 30. Gunnarsson is, and he's taken a playoff place now as well, off of Marcus Stiller, who on points did get in the top 15, but he's going to be heartbreakingly ripped out of it right at the very end. And so on the day, Forsen and Tier and Holmbom of the points players we were looking at earlier on have made it. Gunnarsson has stolen that last place away from Marcus Stiller as a reward for a great effort by Alcantech all afternoon.
Win and you're in is the aim of this game, and teamwork makes the dream work. All of the synonyms there for this team and for this driver. They worked so hard. Of course, the 33 lost his number 1 on the car last season, but he's coming to get it back, and he's now just sneaked his way in. It is going to be certainly an interesting playoffs, and I can't wait to see what is going to happen. It was so good seeing Alcantech come back into this championship. Of course, Bright Esports, Sim Race Sweden, all the other teams giving us some great drama and some great action. But Alcantech being just that 3rd top team coming in there, and with such an impressive driver lineup as well, they're able to execute these race wins. And we are enjoying these donuts from the 33 as he locks himself into the playoffs. And we will try and get an updated playoff result from you for you by the end of the broadcast, as Gunnarsson there takes victory with his 3 teammates, Blick, Solo and Hafthulsen, pushing him to the victory for basically the final half of that lap. They chose the right strategy and it worked out. MHE Racing teammates Helmbro and Hagman, they get themselves inside the top 6 as well. They are also in the playoffs. We'll see them in a couple of weeks' time. Helm, Platt, Skoglund and Bjorn Brostrom round out your top 10. A strong race there for Skoglund, actually, after starting up on that pole position. Fredriksson, Brostrom, Ericsson, they kind of chose the wrong strategy in the end, unfortunately. Leppit, Holmer, Holmbom, Bohlin, Kjellberg, Forsen and Wallin inside your top 20. Skoglund actually getting the fastest lap as well, just showing there's a lot of speed in that 83 machine today. Bratberg, Tier, Nordgren, Forsell, Pfeffer, your top 25. Holmerin, Aurudson with a bit of an annoying day for him down in P27, caught up in one of those wrecks. Kovinen, Dahlström and Fagerberg as well, couple of laps down before the final page of drivers. We've got Lundberg, Auto, Stiller. Unfortunately, his last to first challenge, just falling short of a playoff place so far this season. But what an effort that was, at least. Tademo, Kinel, Ericsson, Gantz, Schott, Motin, Wildebar, many laps down indeed. And one final driver of Connie Lundell not getting past that first lap. And let's get some interviews and speak to these drivers. What a situation it was to have all of the Alken Tech cars. But we will bring in Jonas Gunnarsson of the 33 Alken Tech NHR entry. And Jonas, what a race in the end. I'm sure it was quite calm in many ways. You had all your teammates around, but just how are you feeling locking yourselves into the playoffs?
Yeah, feels great to lock in on the last race of the season, of the regular season. But I have to thank my teammates for pushing me all the way to the finish line. And yeah, it was quite calm because we fuel saved, I think, almost the whole race until like after the last stop we could go full power.
Yeah, you were certainly working well as a team. I'm sure you were in constant communication. Was this always the plan, really? Because in the first half of the race, you weren't really anywhere on the leaderboard. You were sat at the back. You were just really biding your time. So it seems like this was your game plan from the beginning of the race.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember what lap we said we will pit if there was a yellow, but it was pretty early we wanted to pit to like try and get into at the end of the pack and fuel save and try to pit late for the last pit stop, and it worked out this time.
Yeah, certainly. Now you're in the playoffs. What do you think you can do? Of course, you are going to be the, one of the slightly lower drivers because you wouldn't have had many playoff points over the season. But what do you think you can do? Can you challenge? Can you try and get another race victory and lock yourself into the round of 10?
Yeah, of course. You can always challenge. When I won the championship last time, I won the semi-final and the final race to really lock in the championship. I was on points. I would never even go to the final that year. So you have always a chance.
Absolutely. You certainly got a good team to do it. So congratulations on your victory today. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for the round of 15. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
And next we will bring in, of course, the number 95 of Eric Blixt. Eric, you've had such a strong season since joining, but it wasn't quite the race that you sort of needed today. As such, you didn't need to win, you didn't need to get the points, but you needed to get Jonas to the front. So just how was that sort of being at the front there for so long and pushing your teammate? It must have been a bit of a different vibe, not trying to go for the win yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the main goal for joining mid-season was to get as many cars as we could in the playoffs. That was kind of our goal. So, well, it felt nice getting Jonas to win. It felt like he should have had it on Iowa instead of running out of fuel. That would have been even nicer. But yeah, cut it close to the end there on the last race of the regular season. So we didn't 50-50. Either you win or you wreck in big fashion, and we managed to get the win actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it worked out very nicely with the long green flag run for basically half the race at the end there. But how was it in the first couple of stints? Because we had, 3 or 4 cautions at the beginning. It was quite, stop-start. How did you sort of settle into the race?
I mean, we didn't even try to do much at all in the beginning. It was a big scare when everyone started coming down towards the pit lane. Was it the second caution, I think? That was like rattled the cage a little bit, but yeah, just the beginning was just fuel saving. Get the car to a point where we felt like we could do something different with the strategy, don't have to be around too many other cars, and just try to win our race.
Yeah, absolutely. And next we go to Las Vegas and Dover for the round of 15. How are you feeling confidence-wise for those tracks?
Dover is a little bit of a favorite. We had some good clashes with at least Linus and the Old Force team on there. And also Vegas, he's been the final a few times, I think. And we managed to get some good results, especially with the old Gen 6 car.
Yeah, indeed, it's been a good race for you. So congratulations, and we'll see you to try and get this championship in a couple of weeks' time. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
And then lastly, for the podium, we'll bring in Dan Solo, the 13 machine. Of course, such a strong result here last season. But today, you basically just had to sit in the pack with your teammates. How was that being, bumper to bumper with your teammates for so long?
It's always good knowing who you're working with compared to a bunch of randoms that you don't really know what they're gonna do. You have so much to go with the communication and everything, so it's just a lot easier to go faster and do what you want to do here. Especially when you're coming up on the lappers and stuff, when you all can move at the same time and stuff. You don't really cause any issues when you're together like this, so it's just a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we're going to see you in the playoffs as well. What is obviously, I guess your goal is to try and get all three of you to the final 5. But what is your really, I guess, your objective in terms of, are you going to be taking it slightly more cautious, trying to get through on the points, or is it just all out for the win from here to the end?
Well, as we've missed like half of the races, we're quite far down on points, so we're gonna need to be pretty aggressive here in all of the rounds, really. So obviously the goal is to get all 3 of us into the final 5, and we're gonna do as much as we can to get that possible, I guess.
And you had a great sort of backup of Haflidason here in the 81 machine, well, the number 1 machine, I guess, this year, being a bit of a rear gunner in those final few laps. Just how was it looking in your mirrors and seeing him doing all those defensive blocks, trying to keep you in the top 3?
Yeah, well, we had discussed a couple of different outcomes, like if they do this, we do that, and it's all that. So it was expected. We were just hoping that he wouldn't get turned before we got the white flag. After that, if he gets turned and they wreck, well, we don't get the 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was. I mean, it's scary seeing it in the mirror and just hoping that you don't see another car coming up. But he did really well defending, so we didn't really have that much to worry about after the last lap or so.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great drive by you and your teammates today. So congratulations on your 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And perfect. And that concludes the interviews here from Daytona, the Superior 400. And this is how we stand going in towards the playoffs. Of course, we have 2 rounds of the round of 15, and then we drop 5 drivers. The 5 drivers currently sitting in those drop places are Solo, Schott, Forsen, Tier, and Holmbom. They are, just a few points away from getting themselves up there. But of course, winning, you're in again. So let's see what they can do. We start at Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. And of course, so many big names there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will be there on the 13th of March, a couple of weeks time. But don't forget as well, the road course series comes back as well. We move from IndyCar to GT3. That action will come to you next week as well on the 6th of March. So racing every week now for the next few months, every Thursday evening here on RaceSpotTV. It's been myself, Cam Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we brought you to the end of the regular season here for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. But that is not it. We still have 5 more rounds to go to find our champion, and it may just be one of these Alcantech cars after how strong they look today. We'll certainly have to find out. But until next week for the road course series starting, we wish you a very warm goodbye.